Okay, so it's 4 o'clock here in Vietnam and 3:30 in Myanmar. So good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully around ASEAN and maybe further afield. Welcome to our webinar. My name is David Guarina Gilmartin from the British Council here in Vietnam, and I'm really happy to introduce the 8th in our webinar series. And today we're going to be looking at language for resilience, and you're going to hear from our panel and panelists in just a few moments. Before we start, just a couple of housekeeping points. Please feel free to keep your cameras on, but please make sure, if you wish, but please make sure your microphones are on mute during the main panel discussion. Remember, if you have any questions or any comments in the during the session itself, please put them in the chat box or in the Q&A, and our moderator, Fiona, will try to pick up on those with the panelists during the session or towards the end of the session. And please note also that this session will be recorded, so that we can store that on our British Council Indonesia and British Council Vietnam website, so you can look at it later. Also, this is being live streamed on the British Council Indonesia Facebook page as well, so you should be able to find that there. But remember, as I say, if you have any questions at any point, please feel free to put those in the chat. Yeah, and please, it's great to see. Thank you, Ten Ning, for saying good afternoon. If you could say in the chat where you're from, just so the panelists know who's with us today, that would be really great. Okay, so before I hand over to Fiona and the panel, just a quick reminder, Q&A anytime during the session, and also towards the end of the session, in the last 5 minutes, we'll be telling you about the course, the MOOC course on our Teaching English website, where you can find out more about language for resilience, which is the main topic of our session today. So as I say, we'll be sharing that with you towards the end, the last 5 minutes or so of the session. But for now, I'm going to be quiet and hand over to my colleague, Fiona Robertson from British Council. Fiona, over to you.
Hello, thanks, David. And I'm really happy to be on this event. I'm actually in Pakistan, in Lahore, where I work. I lead the English programs teams here. But I've done language for resilience work, particularly in Iraq and in Jordan, where I worked with Syrian refugees. So I know a bit about it, and I've had a bit of experience. And I'd now like to welcome our panelists. We have Tom, we have Tess and Liberty with us. So let's see, we'll go over to each person and get them to just say a little bit about themselves. So over to you, Tess. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Fiona, and hi, everyone. So good to see a lot of people from Myanmar as well. Hello, and my name is Ted, and I'm from Myanmar. I'm working as an Psychosocial Awareness, which is an organization.
Yes, we can't hear you very well. You're breaking up a little bit. Could you just
go? Sorry. It is the same for everybody. Sorry. So to introduce again, my name is Ez, and I'm working for Saya Foundation, which is an organization supporting pre-service teachers and teachers in early careers as well. We work with the teachers from religious schools to community schools. And I'm so honored to be here with everybody and share a little bit about my experience. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I don't know if there's anything you can do, Tess, but the sound's not great. So okay, I'll just be really near the mic and okay, thanks. Okay, Tom, over to you.
Thanks very much, Fiona. Hi, everyone. Mingalaba. I'm Tom. So I worked in Myanmar from 2014 to 2017 in the education degree colleges. And then from 2019 to 2021, I'm currently an education specialist with teacher focus based in Mae Sot on the Thai-Myanmar border. I currently support the Karen refugee camps with teacher professional development. And this year I've made some materials on teacher well-being. And I've also participated in a participatory action research project with a group of teachers during a time of crisis. And it's a real honor to be here and see so many of you here today. And I'm really looking forward to the conversations. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, and now over to Liberty.
I'm very excited to be here and in front of many people. And I'm very happy to be in this part. And my name is North Blemu. Many people know me also, Liberty. And start from 1999, I started my working in Thai-Burma border. First, I was teacher in one of the refugee camp. And after that, I walk along Thai-Burma border in all 9 refugee camps as the teacher trainer. And now I'm with Teacher Focus in Mae Sot, working for teacher capacity building and also as the child protection and child safeguarding coordinator. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we have a wealth of experience here, some very interesting people with lots of interesting things to share. So let's kick off. I mean, something's happened to my backdrop. It seems to have gone the wrong way around. I don't know what's happened. Never mind. The title of the webinar is Language for Resilience. So let's just think a little bit about what is language for resilience? What does it mean? You know, because until we know what we're actually talking about, I think it's difficult to discuss in depth, you know? So Tom, over to you. What do you understand by language for resilience?
Sure, absolutely. So I think starting with resilience, right? Resilience is bouncing back from hard times. And I think everybody has experienced a lot of hard times in the last 2 years. And so being resilient is that ability, right, to bounce back and come back again when something hard happens in your life. But what I think is really important about resilience is that where you find resilience and what resilience means is a very personal concept. And different places, different cultures and different individuals have different meanings. So for example, in Northern Shan State, I know that resilience doesn't mean bouncing back from hard times because hard times never really end in Northern Shan State. So for there, resilience means like endurance and keeping going and being stoic in the face of adversity. So starting there, resilience, bouncing back, or a personal concept. But I think in terms of language for resilience, particularly with the work the British Council does, I think it's really important to think about how languages can be a source of resilience. And so languages are really the key to another world. And so with more keys, you can access more knowledge, you have more tools at your disposal, and so you're better able to bounce back or get through tough times.
Thanks, Tom. No, that's really, really useful. And I think you've, you know, already clarified things very well for everybody and given examples. So Tess, over to you. What can you add to that? What do you understand by language for resilience?
Can you hear me well now?
Yeah, seemingly yes. That's great.
Okay, I totally agree with Tom that the definition of resilience can be different from one person to another. So personally, for me, it's staying strong and staying true to yourself, even in the most difficult times. So what comes to my mind when I think about the word language of resilience is, what type of resilience are we talking about? Is that physical resilience? Is that emotional resilience? Or is that the community resilience? So language of resilience for me is using the language as a medium or as a tool to build physical, emotional, and community resilience so that the children or the learners that can stay strong during the difficult times and prepare for the better times. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And Liberty, over to you. So what can you add to that?
Yes, when concerned with resilience, when I was teacher trainer and then in refugee camp, if we say the word resilience, they cannot feel or what does that mean? That is new word like that. Concerned with the word that we use during the difficult times, like stress, psychosocial, trauma, resilience. All these words we have to explain, and then we have to explain with our experience, sharing, talking, and then we came to understand what that word mean like that. So in my case, the word resilience, when we explain the teachers, it is like the bamboo. When the bamboo is very tall, and then when the wind blows, it goes straight like that. But when the wind go out, it come back like that. So like that in our life, we may face with difficulties, difficult time, but you don't fall always, come back, cope with daily life like that. So we like our teachers to know these words, because it is important to know these words. At first, we don't know. We have stress also, we don't know. We have trauma also, we don't know. What is stress? What is trauma? We don't know like that. But later, after we learn that lesson, then we came to know. And then sometimes, oh, now I got stressed. I need to cope. What way I will cope? Yeah, walking or talking with somebody or sharing my experience with others like that. Yeah, so that's why in saying Pavlo Freire, so knowledge is power and education is freedom. And in Mahatma Gandhi saying, education liberate us. So yeah, these are the words I strongly believe. And then yeah, when I'm working with the teachers, yeah, these language is important.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Liberty. And I love that idea of the bamboo, you know, that image of the bamboo, which is one of the strongest materials, I think, in the world. And both Liberty and Tom mentioned how everybody is different, you know, so the way that they cope, the way they need to cope, what they need to do in times of stress is going to depend on the individual, and we have to respect that. Tom, I think you've got something to add there.
Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to jump in and add a bit more about that. Yeah, your individual knowledge and that idea of how language is so important to helping you understand yourself. I remember reading a study once about the importance of teaching very young children different words to describe their emotions, because as a child, the better you're able to name an emotion and explain how you feel and explain the difference between stress or anxiety or worry or hunger or anger, like all of these different words are different feelings. And if you know how you're feeling and then why you're feeling that way, you're better able to manage, right? And so kind of building on what Liberty's saying about these terms of coping and stress and resilience, the more you're able to learn yourself and know yourself and have this power through knowledge, the better you're able to manage and kind of identify yourself, what resilience means to you.
Thanks, Tom. No, that's really interesting. And I just wanted to add something else, you know, about language, because anybody who's learned a foreign language, you know, knows how challenging it is. It's difficult. And once you've made a bit of progress, it really boosts your self-esteem. You know, it's difficult. You're really struggling and then suddenly you're able to communicate in this language. And I think it's really good for focusing on something totally different, which is possibly not related to what's going on in your personal life, but the sort of being able to do something new, which is going to help you in life, is very satisfying and can really boost your self-esteem in time of trouble. So the actual thing, the hobby, the challenge, the dedication to languages is really important. So that's why we're focusing on language. And it doesn't have to be English, it could be any language, of course. So let's move on then. So we're talking about people who've been through very difficult situations. So we're talking about something a little bit more than everyday stress that we all go through. We're talking about people who've, maybe been in really terrible situations and seen terrible things have happened to them. So the actual environment as a teacher, we're responsible for creating a space where students feel comfortable, they feel safe. They feel that they can be themselves, or they can be possibly, not cope, but they're in an environment where it's going to be all right. Whatever happens, it's okay. So how do you do that in your own classrooms? How do you create that safe space? Liberty, over to you on that one.
Yes, we inform the teachers, we train the teachers, like a classroom should be the safe space, because at home, maybe they may not get enough care or enough guidance or enough protection, maybe, but at least the school must be the safe place. So first, when the student come in to classroom, like the teacher, instead of teaching the subject first, should ask them, how do you feel? How are you? Like that. Sometimes how are you and fine is not enough. You can use also emoji faces, like a happy face, sad face, worry face, like angry face, like that. So these pictures, the children can see, and then which one is your feeling today, like that. So it helps the children like express out what they feel. So we are promoting to express out. So that way also teacher can use. We inform them, and then teacher also apply back, and then they see the student express. They tell about their home situation or how they feel. They are happy to see the teacher, like that. So this is emoji face we use. And then another one is also, we can ask the student also when they come on the way from home to school, because some home they have to walk to school is quite far. So they have to act out to be happy or to have fun. Don't say the word, what did you see on the way when you come to school? So some people say like that. That way they see motorcycle or something like that. So some people make the shop selling like a tea, like that. So this is somehow they express, and then they feel happy, and then only the teacher can teach, like that. So this is how we ask the teacher to make the student at least to open their feeling, sad feeling or worry, or to teachers, like that. That is some of the ways.
Thank you. Thanks, Liberty. And there are so many classrooms, when you go into a classroom and the teacher starts the lesson, and it's, good morning, everybody. How are you today? And all the students chorus, we're fine, thank you. And it's completely meaningless, And I love the way that you're, really going into that. How are you? I want to know exactly how you are, and show me a little bit about your life, so that they're acting out and getting everybody already engaging with each other, but without having to even use language, so that they're relaxed and exactly. Tess, over to you. What have you got to add about creating safe spaces?
Before I share about my experience, I'd like to share how I define safe space first. So safe space for me is a space where everybody feels physically safe, emotionally safe, socially safe, spiritually safe, and sexually safe. So there are so many things that we need to consider when we are creating a safe space for the children in our classroom. And to create a safe space in our classroom is everybody's responsibility. It's not just only the teacher's responsibility. So as a teacher, to create a physically safe classroom, then we need to have physical, we need to look at the physical infrastructure, not all together with the school management and all this thing. And for emotionally and socially safe environment, learning classrooms, simple conversations with the children also help, like scheduling in the conversation to talk to individual students to learn about their difficulties, their challenges, and learning about them and integrating activities that would be relevant to their needs will be really helpful. And also we should have positive disciplines, like positive rules and discipline that have been discussed and agreed in the classroom is really, really important to create emotionally safe classrooms. Also, sexually safe classroom is really important for both teachers and students to know about child protection policies and how to prevent the potential risk that might be happening. The students should know what kind of potential risk that might happen and how to protect or prevent it. So in Saya Foundation, we usually do the teacher trainings on child protection and child safeguarding, like Mud Liberty usually do. And we also ask them to sign the policy papers and really practice the strategy that can create a safe environment as well. But finally, the spiritually safe environment is really necessary for the teachers to really think about it, because in refugee camps or in IDP camps, usually the children come from different backgrounds. So they may believe in different things. They may believe in Christianity or Buddhism or whatsoever. That is really important for the teachers to be inclusive and show respect on different religions that the children believe in. So by celebrating or by showing the respect of the religion that they believe in, then we are trying to create a spiritually safe classroom. So there are so many things that we can consider to create a safe space in our classroom. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I really think that was so important about how everybody's responsible for, creating a safe space. It's not just the teachers, so that it's something that everybody's going to be aware of, and also something that you're thinking of constantly throughout your time in the classroom, that everybody's thinking of it. And also this idea of the inclusivity, so everybody from whatever religion, whatever ethnic background feels safe in that classroom. Tom, over to you. What have you got to add to this?
Sure, thanks. I'll try not to repeat any points because I thought they were such really, really good points, Tess particularly, kind of, defining how you define that safe space. And I think the other thing you mentioned, which I thought is so important, is the idea that in these contexts, in refugee and IDP contexts, and in really difficult times, that safety is really, really important. And having a safe classroom is maybe a priority that normally teachers think about, but not so much. And maybe you need to give it more thought as a teacher. So like Liberty was saying, having games and activities where students can feel free to express themselves. I think for me, the big phrase would be positive learning environments. So trying to find lots of different ways to create a really positive learning environment in which everyone feels safe and respected and included. So specifically, a positive learning environment, I think it's what works for you as a teacher, whether it's music and games or dancing or quizzes or whatever your students enjoy. And I think in that case, the teacher is the expert in their own classroom and you need to know what works to help create that fun, positive learning environment in your classroom. I would also say know your students. I think that's really, really important. And I think we might talk about that more later today. But for example, with the Liberties activity and Tef's saying, like finding the time to get to know your students, creating the activities to get to know your students, have those personal conversations. Use your students' names and encourage other students to use each other's names, and really trying to build that sense of a team spirit, that we're all in this together, we're all in the same boat. And I think that can go a long way to fostering a really positive learning environment, which naturally creates a very, very safe space. Oh, my last point, sorry. My last point, can I jump in? Sorry, last one, which is a favorite. So key, I think, to all of those things is active listening. And so the teachers that I've trained and worked with as well in the past, it's something we've really, really thought about. And I think in my teaching, it's something that I've worked hard to develop and still need to get better at. Is listening to others, asking follow-up questions, using good body language, and really giving time to know your students through listening well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. So that's great. And it's just, one thing I'd like to add, and then there's also a question that's come up. So, we're also thinking about, in a very practical sense, safety. The classroom actually might be in an area where, there could be, I don't know, missiles, or it could be, conflict zones. So there needs to be some sort of drill. People know what to do in an emergency. All this kind of thing, first aid, all of this needs to be taken care of as well. And the other thing, of course, is child protection and having a focal point, and these really important basic structures in place, so that if anything goes wrong, you can immediately, as a teacher, you can kind of just follow the drill. You know what the procedure is and sort it as quickly as possible. So moving on then to a question which, when I was involved in Language for Resilience in the Middle East, came up a lot. And this is about, being a teacher and working with people who've been through very traumatic experience, and how far a teacher's realistically able to deal with psychosocial issues and trauma. And, what can be done to support teachers if they're working with refugees or IDPs, because, as a teacher, we probably haven't had that specialist training. So what are your thoughts on that? Tom, over to you on that one.
Sure, thanks. So to mention the course that British Council is running at the moment, there's been some really interesting learning from my perspective. Going through the course this week, I've been really reflecting on my own experience and thinking about how we can create our own protective factors to look after ourselves and look after our students, particularly thinking about, I keep coming back to this idea of the positive learning environment and creating a community within your classroom. And I think that's really important for the psychosocial well-being of yourself and your students. If everybody enjoys being in the classroom, that's a huge bonus. In every way. It's fantastic. Just some other experience is creating teacher well-being materials. So I think really it's just in the last 2 years, maybe it's a silver lining from COVID. There's a lot more awareness now about the importance of teacher well-being, and there are a lot of more resources available to help teachers train their students to think about their well-being, and also for teachers to think about their own well-being. I was really privileged to work with a group of 9 teachers during a time of crisis on a participatory action research project. And they spent 6 months learning about well-being and trying different strategies to improve their own well-being. And at the end of the 6 months, to summarize an awful lot of work they did, there were 3 key points they felt that were really, really important. The first one was to stay mindful. And so to be aware of your scenario, aware of where you are, to understand how you're feeling, as we talked about in the first question, to understand your situation and to take that moment between stimulus and response to think about what you want to do. So staying mindful was number one. The second point was staying connected. And I think this is something I personally have really learned. I think is very, very important, particularly in the last few years. I think it's really important to stay connected as a teacher. Like, we're each other's greatest resource. So it's fantastic to see so many people here today. And hopefully you'll join the Facebook group and stay connected that way. Or maybe after this webinar, you'll connect with someone you haven't spoken to for a long time. Because I think staying connected is so, so important for psychosocial support. And the third point, the teachers I worked with in times of crisis, they said that staying busy was really important. If you think about your circles of control, the things that you can't control, but the things that you can control, the more that you're able to expand the things that you can control, the more you can stay busy, the easier it is to focus on your day-to-day and to make a positive impact and feel better about things that are going on. So those are my 3 tips, I suppose, which is stay mindful, stay connected, and stay busy.
Thanks, Tom. Yes, and I mean, it's so important in all teaching, isn't it, for the teacher to be totally aware of why am I doing this, you know, because it's so easy just to go into sort of automatic, all right, let's do this next exercise, but the whole, you know, to be successful, particularly in this environment, it's like, why am I doing it and what do I want to get out of it? So you're focusing on a much deeper level of what's happening in the classroom environment. So Liberty, over to you on this question of psychosocial awareness.
Thank you. Our teacher and our students, they come from refugee and migrant, displaced. So they have already full of difficult life. And so when we give training, we inform teacher, what is psychosocial? The word psychosocial, they know what is psycho. Psycho is like sick, mind, or like that. Social, so they said it is relation, yeah, relating with people like that, social. So why the word becomes psychosocial, 2 words in 1 word like that. So we draw the picture outline of a person, and then a person has brain, heart, like that. So that brain is include like your belief, your thoughts, like that. So so it is mind, like that, feeling, like that. So all these are called inner part of the person. Inner part of the person and outer part of the person is you have your family member, you have your friends, you have your community, like that. So all these are, you have to talk with them, relating with them. So these, a person inner and a person outer, they are always communicating. So when you are happy, you will be like talk with them in happiness. When you are feeling sad, maybe you don't want to look at them. So a person who is relating with you, today that person is not talking me well. I feel very sad. Then like this kind of sadness, again, transfer to other person also. And if somebody got angry at home, and then when, for example, the teacher at home have problem with family member and they come to school with angry. So if that person inside is angry, and then when relating with students with the angry, the student will be afraid. Student will be, how to say, don't want to ask the question if they don't understand, like that. So we explain them. So that's why psychosocial. So first, if you want to help others, first make yourself calm down, or make yourself comfort yourself first, then relate. Then our part is like teacher and student relationship will be better. If you don't handle your stress, if you don't handle your anger, it is within you. Then when you relate with your student, then again, negative relationship will be there like that. So this is how we encourage the teacher, and we explain the teacher, yeah, psychosocial like that.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Liberty. I think that's really important. It's like, you know, that thing on the airplane, like, you know, fit your own oxygen mask before you fit it to somebody else. And it's a sort of metaphor, you know, make sure that you're in a good place before you help somebody else. I think that's really important. Tess, have you got anything to add to this discussion?
Yeah, just a little bit. And like both what Tom and Liberty share, very, very wonderful. And I also agree that how realistic the students can receive this psychosocial support from the teacher maybe depend on the teacher's capacity, well-being, experience, and the level of trauma that the teacher has as well. So to help others, yes, like my Liberty said, teacher need to do self-help or like create a support system around them so that they can keep going in the long run. And like Tom shared, I totally love the idea of staying connected to like-minded professionals as well. One of the examples that we do in our workplace is creating professional learning community where everybody share their learning, and like maybe they can alternatively become facilitators. Then they can share their tips and tricks in their classrooms, and then that can help them keep learning, because teaching and learning is not a one-size-fits-all, you know, thing. And like many scenarios will have different solutions toward it, and then every case will be very unique, and they will need a unique approach as well. So we need to know our children, our strategies, and for that we need to keep learning, and we need to share. We need to keep sharing. We need to keep observing this. The children. And the last point that I also agree with my Liberty is to take a break when needed. Pause what we do, because before we get burned out so badly, we should pause and like take a break if needed, you know, take a moment for ourselves, do self-care. Then when we feel ready, then we can support our children. So yeah, that's what I want to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And I just want to add something from my experience actually when I was in Iraq, and we were working with displaced people, and there was one chap in a young guy in the course training to be a teacher actually, and he had been through a really violent situation and was very upset. And the two, so it was me and my colleague, Mary Delaney, and we handed over to another person who was from the same community as him, and let her deal with it, because she spoke to him in her own language. She knew his story. She was able to, you know, deal with him culturally in a way that we weren't able to. We weren't able to we didn't have that shared experience. So I think it's really important to have assistants there who are from, you know, the same community, or would have a deep understanding of what the students have been through, or teachers if you're doing teacher training. So the teacher doesn't always have to take it on, you know, on themselves to give support, because they might not be able to. And I think if you're not able to, you need to be honest about that and hand over to somebody else. So we have a question actually about class numbers. Yu Mo is asking about, she's talking about having classes of over 70 students. And, you know, everything that we've talked about up to now would be really difficult, not impossible, but it's difficult to implement in a class of 70 students. You know, remembering everybody's names, listening to everybody, looking everybody in the face, taking care of everybody. It's really, really difficult. So, of course, we have to deal with the reality, but in Language for Resilience, I mean, personally, I would advise doing everything you can to divide classes up into smaller units. I mean, I would say that 25 would be the maximum to have an optimum environment for a Language for Resilience class. And that means doing everything you can in your power to get support, to organize the timetable in a way that is effective. So I know it's not always possible, but we have to be aware of what we're trying to do in this kind of class, and when we do need a safe space and everything. So ask for support. Okay, I think we've got time for one more question. Okay, so in the language, Tess, over to you. I can see you've got your hand up.
I just wanted to share a little bit about my experience teaching children over 100 in one class. So I used to teach in a monastic school, and usually in some of the classes there were over 200 even, because it's very crowded. We have limited space for children. So sometimes it's over 100, sometimes it's 200, sometimes it can be or more than 50 or so. So in those classes, the strategy I used was collaborative learning. So we have different groups. So bi-weekly we have different groups, and then the group leaders. So the group leaders also support the students together with their teachers, and the group leaders change every week or so as well. So grouping, and then using the role plays kind of thing, or group work kind of things are really helpful in that sense. Of course, I totally agree to Fiona that having less students in the class is really helpful, but if you cannot avoid this situation, collaborative learning, or teaching the children to lead their own learning really helps in those big classrooms. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much. No, that's really useful. There's a question from Greg. He says, currently in Myanmar and its borderlands, there are many incredibly sensitive conflict-related topics that are on the hearts and minds of students and teachers. Is it possible for teachers to create a space for these topics, or are the risks and sensitivity too great? Now, I'm not working in that area, so I wouldn't be able to answer that question. But do any of our panelists here have an opinion here?
I'll start, and I hope Tess might join in, if that's okay. I would say, just again, from my experience and from my limited perspective, in my classroom and my philosophy, I really like to try and make things student-led and student-centered. And if there are issues which everyone in the class wants to discuss, I think as a teacher, if you can safely, number one, safely create a space in which people are able to express their opinions and be heard and listen to one another. I think that's very important. However, I think we're all acutely aware in the last 2 years, the extent to which we've been living in history. And I think that really it comes down to the teacher as an individual. And once again, it comes back to this idea of staying connected, as Tess was saying, talking to your peers, and each teacher in their own situation, in their own classroom, what do they feel is appropriate for them to discuss? Yeah, Tess, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that one.
I missed that question actually. Fiona, I was looking for the question, but I can't find. Can you say it again?
Okay, I'll repeat it for you. So I seem to have lost the question. It's basically, Greg was talking about the Myanmar border, and there are some very sensitive conflict-related topics that are in the hearts and minds of students and teachers. Is it possible for teachers to create safe spaces where they can talk to students about, or open up to students where they can talk about these topics, or do you think it's better to avoid them for security reasons?
Yeah, Okay, so I think it is the problem that's happening not only in the border area, but also even in within the country or outside of the country as well. And I think every situation is unique, and every student will be unique as well. So for some of the level of the resilience that the student is what matters, and also how the teacher is communicating is also really important. So for some of the students, if they have been traumatized really badly, then maybe it's really important to take time to talk about their trauma and heal. Some of the trauma may not be healed forever. Some of the trauma may be healed in a short time as well. So depending on what kind of experience that they have gone through, I think we need to take time and then get to know the students better. And also the other thing is the safety of both teacher and the student, also even for the organization that has been supporting them to organize this thing. So based on the different context, I think the question will be different. And it's really important for everyone to understand different sides of the story. So maybe if because of we are on one side, it doesn't mean that this side is correct. So like we need to look in the long run and teach the children how to see things differently and how to become a person who can solve different problems that they may be facing in the future as well. Sometimes when we are indirectly training the students to solve their own problems or like build a better world in the future, that might heal them step by step as well. So I think my answer would be based on the scenario, the solution may be different. For some contexts and for some children, you may be able to talk about the very sensitive topics and teach them some basic skill to cope with those situations. But in some situation, maybe it would be great to take time to let them heal, or to let them involve in some kind of activity that will help them heal by themselves as well. So yeah, I hope that's helpful.
That's very helpful, Tess. And I think, yeah, it does very much depend on the situation, on your current situation. So you need to be aware of that. So actually, questions are coming in thick and fast, and I don't know if we're going to have time to answer them all. But I think we might be able to answer later on in the chat after the webinar if we don't get through them, because I wanted to get our panelists' top tips for language for resilience, and also we're going to hear a bit more about our course from David. So let's move on then with the top tips. So Liberty, as a teacher or trainer for language for resilience, what are your 2 top tips? If you can be quite quick about this, I think.
So one is know your student. That is one of the teacher competency frame also. And that when you say know your student, in the beginning of the school year, when the student come into your class, the teacher asks about them, from where they come, from which school they come, what is your name, how many family members, like that. So after that, the teacher will know the student. And then sometime the teacher will ask them to write down or to write the essay or to draw the picture. So that time also, teacher use the particular topic to help them express. Then the teacher know more about them, and then the teacher can give more support to them, like that. So that is know your student. And second thing is, like for me also, I still keep in mind is, even though I'm slow learner or I'm still learning or like that, but I remember in Burma, our lesson is like that is a small snail only, but climbing the wood pole slowly, and then after some time, the snail is on top of the wood, like that. So even though you may have many obstacles and difficulties, don't stop. Yeah, keep going. Then you will achieve, achieve your goal like that. So these two things.
Thank you. Thanks. No, I love that snail image. Okay, Tess, over to you. What are your 2 top tips?
Okay. Can I say 3? So I think teaching, number 1 is teaching is a collective work and is not a one-man show thing. So please make sure to be connected to the like-minded professions or people from other networks so that you are informed with things. Secondly is about updating yourself with the knowledge about yourself, your children, and the context so that you can create very relevant, trauma-informed education or whatsoever. And third thing, which might be a little bit contradicting to my liberty, it is about pausing when you need to. You can keep going, but please pause when you really need to, because it's really important for your well-being and to really provide a really effective and safe space for your children. So 3 tips for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tess. And over to you, Tom.
Also 3 tips, but I'll be really quick because I'm just going to repeat some of the things these guys have just said. So number 1, you're not alone. You're not alone. Your greatest resource is each other. Like, it's so important. Teachers work together, stick together, help each other. Number 2, you're an expert. I think teachers, sometimes we devalue our own expertise. You know your students better than anyone else. You know your class better than anyone else. You know your situation better than anyone else. You are an expert. Reflect on your situation. Take action using your reflections. Stay mindful. And finally, yeah, you're very important. Like, teachers are very, very important. Everybody remembers their favorite teacher. World Teachers Day, we celebrated last year, and the slogan was "Teachers at the heart of the education recovery." I think teachers are more important than ever before today. Within this framework of language for resilience, languages are a key to unlock completely new worlds. And as a teacher, you give people knowledge and you help them unlock new worlds. So just to reiterate, you're an expert, you're important, and stay busy, stay mindful, stay connected, but also take a break. How many tips was that?
That's what I was going to say. I wasn't counting.
Okay, no, great, fantastic. Yeah, and I think this thing about, the importance of being a teacher and honouring the profession is very worth mentioning. So, David, over to you now, because I think you want to tell us a bit more about the course. Is that right?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Fiona, and thanks, everybody. I really enjoyed listening to that discussion there between you all with some great tips for teaching generally, and especially in the situations that you're in yourselves. Yeah, so I've been putting in the chat. I put in the chat before, and hopefully my colleagues Tintway and Maria can help me over the next few minutes just to guide you through. If I can share my screen. Whoops, share screen. There we go. Yeah, so thanks everybody for the questions. Sorry we didn't get to hear, as Fiona said, we didn't get to hear all the questions from Tita Kang and Zinmei So, but hopefully you can join this course if you haven't already. You can see on the screen there the QR code. The course actually started a couple of weeks ago. It lasts for 4 weeks. It finishes on the 2nd of July. So if you can register before this weekend, you can still use the time that's remaining to join this course. I think Tom was saying he's joined the course. And have taken part in some of the Facebook groups and some of the Facebook live events. I also put a link in the chat a few minutes ago to a recording of one of the Facebook live events where you'll see today's moderator, Fiona, on the panel discussing some of the issues as well. At the end of the course, you can receive a British Council certificate, and of course, it's all free of charge as well. So yeah, if you haven't already joined, then please take it. If you have a phone, you can take a screenshot of the QR code and join the course. I'll just very quickly, I hope, if I just jump across onto here. Yes, so this is what you will see. Okay, yeah, thanks, Maria. My colleague Maria has put the link in the chat for you. And you can see here, this is the details of the course. You can see there are 3 modules, and you can, it should be fairly straightforward. I can't now, yes. First of all, you have to join, if you haven't already, create an account or on the British Council Teaching English website. And once you've done that, it's relatively straightforward. Then you can, once you've logged on, you can visit the, so you can visit the course. Yeah, you can log in there. All right, I'm not going to do that now because that would take a little bit of time. If you have any questions, you can always come back to us. So really hope that you can take part in that. Let me just close that down. Yes, share the screen again. Back to the PowerPoints. Yes. Okay. And just also to say, in the few minutes we have left, we have other resources and other activities coming up as well. So our colleagues in British Council Indonesia are in the middle of running a series of courses about a gamification of English language teaching. There's already been 2 sessions. The latest one was yesterday. On the screen there, again, I know Maria will put the link in the chat, and if you have your phone, you can always click on the QR code and join the next one. There's 3 more to come, with the next one being next Wednesday, so that every Wednesday for the next 3 weeks. Oh no, not for the next 3 weeks, but going through to July as well. So hopefully you can have a look at that. And then our next webinar in this series, linked to the next online course. The next online course, which will be starting on the 19th of July, will be looking at online skills for 21st century teachers. So on Tuesday, the 19th of July, at the times there in Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Myanmar. I think most of you today are from Myanmar. I saw one person from Norway, which was a fantastic reach all the way to Norway. So again, it would be great if you can, if you were interested in this topic and would like to learn more about the topic and also the course, you can register here again at the link there or using the QR code. So that's just a few announcements. And finally to say, again, if you give us your feedback on today, we really hope you've enjoyed today's session. If you give us your feedback, then we will send out to you an e-certificate. Okay, so please feel free to do that. Again, I hope Maria will be putting the link in the chat, or you can use the QR code on the left-hand side of the screen there. So all I want to say is a huge thank you to everybody, to Liberty, to Tess. Liberty, I love the story of the snail. I'm going to use that one. I've never heard that before. I really like that story. To Tess and to Tom for sharing all their experiences of teaching in this situation, and also huge thanks to Fiona for moderating today's session. And it's great to see. So thank you everybody for all your thanks in the chats. Really appreciate that, and we really look forward to seeing you next time. So again, huge thanks to the panelists and Fiona, and we'll see you in July. Mingalaba. Bye for now.
Thanks everybody, great pleasure. It was to participate in this initiative. Bye everybody. Thanks.
Bye everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you to all the panelists.
Thank you.